Hey there, all you groovy hipsters. I'm Mike DeLisio.
I'm Z Garcia.
And I'm Fancy Pants Cool Jazz Chris.
He's Wolfman Chris. There's a brand new reference. Hey, we're going to be talking today about Hitster, which is a music trivia party game that has some app integration. And if you've ever played the game Timeline, there are some similarities to that game as well. Why don't I give you a brief overview about how the game plays, then we'll come back here and let you know what we think. All right, here we see a game of Hitster set up, and right now this would be set up as a 3-player game because each player is going to either be playing one of the people that are trying to put songs in a timeline, or they're going to be playing the DJ, who really is just a facilitator of the game. So you have this huge deck of cards, and there's actually more in the box. This is about half of them. There's a lot of cards in the game. And you get seated with a card just randomly off the top, and this is this is kind of like the starting card of your timeline. It's not the beginning necessarily. And you start with 2 of these Hitster tokens, which I'll explain in just a moment. The DJ is a player that is facilitating the game, and they're going to be the one that has a couple of things. One, they'll have to download this free Hitster app for their device, phone, iPad, whatever the case may be, and they have to have a Spotify account, either premium or free. So there's no cost involved in playing this game outside of purchasing the actual game itself, but you should be aware that you would need both of those things. So one of the things you can do is read the rules here because there are no printed rules inside of the box. You could go to a website or you can click there to read the rules. There are not many rules. It's a very simple game. Or you press here to start a game. The general idea in the game is that you are trying to create a timeline of songs when they were released, and the winner will be the first one to get 10 songs correctly placed in their timeline. You can also get bonuses if you are the active player by guessing the artist and the title of the song. That would be giving you one of these Hitster tokens, and I'll explain what those do in just a minute. So let's say we were starting a game and the DJ turns this on. What they're going to do now is they're going to take the top card of this deck and they're going to scan the QR code with their phone. All right. Now, I will show this off camera, and I will play the song, and this person will be the one that's trying to guess where it goes and what the song title and artist is. Maybe you can find out yourself. Let's play along. Okay, so it plays about 20 seconds of the song, and now this player would try to place it in the correct order, before or after 1986. Well, let's say this person knows that it's Counting Crows' Mr. Jones, and they know that it's after 86. It's actually in 93. So the placed card stays there because it's in the correct spot. Also, they would gain a Hitster token because they knew the artist and the song title. If this player had thought that they had placed this in the wrong side, they could have used one of their Hitster tokens to challenge it. And if they were correct and this player was not, they would actually steal the card and put it in the correct spot in their timeline. That's the general idea behind the game. You're listening to songs, trying to determine where they go. If you can get the name and title, that's a bonus. And the Hitster tokens are used for a few things. One, you can spend one of your Hitster tokens if you don't want to use the song that the DJ used. You can pay a Hitster token to go to another song. You can also use 3 Hitster tokens to immediately draw a card off the top of the deck and be able to place it without having to guess what it is in the correct spot in your timeline. So those are the different ways the Hitster tokens can be used. And the first player that gets to 10 points is going to be the winner of the game. I will mention quickly that there are some difficulty levels that you can kind of change those things up. But generally speaking, that is how that's going to work. Let's head back over and let you know what we think. All right, so there was my overview of Hitster, and a couple of things just right off the bat I'm going to mention. One is that there are different difficulty levels. I just talked about the normal difficulty levels. There, you can actually play it cooperatively, where you're really not even using the music at all. You're just basically playing timeline. We're just talking about the basic way to play the game. The difficulties we can talk about. I can kind of tell you what they are, and you'll get it right away. But as far as the game goes, one of the things that I was a little bit taken aback by is the fact that there are no rules in the box. And that was a little bit surprising to me. You can scan a QR code, but that's how you're getting the rules. And there's not many rules.
Sure.
But if that's the case, why not just throw a thing in there? Maybe because you have to have a phone to play the game.
I suppose if there is one game that will ever get away with forcing you to scan a QR code, it's a game about scanning QR codes. You know what I mean?
Fair.
You can only play this by scanning the QR code.
So we might as well make that the rule book too. I guess it's okay. Yes, I agree with you. It'd be nice to be able to, on the way to where you're going to play or whatever, just leaf through it or quickly reference something. But they're so slight, these rules.
They are.
You know, it's a really neat mixture of that idea of timeline where you're sorting things, you know, arranging things, which is inherently a sort of pleasing thing to do for humans, I think. You know, this idea of like, arranging these things in the order they go, and where's this one go? And just listening to music and reliving music, you know.
100 years of music, they say.
Yeah, on that front, I think they did a really good job curating what's in here to be modern, to be classic, 90s, 80s, to be from like all the way back. I mean, it's such a great spread of sounds, of music. I love that about it.
I was shocked when we scanned one and all of a sudden started playing swing jazz music from the 30s. I'm like, I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting this to be like 80s rock and like modern pop music. But they really kind of spread their breadth a decent amount.
I agree.
Yeah, in a game like this, the music choices are going to be really important. And I think that part is the strongest aspect of the game. You know, I came into this, I'm not going to lie, I came into this feeling pretty confident.
Yeah.
Because I worked at music stores for years, I'm a big music fan. I actually, you know, have been exposed to a lot of different genres of music. I thought I'm going to crush this. And then it got to anything beyond 2000 and I would say 18. Somewhere around, actually maybe earlier than that.
Earlier for me.
And I was like,
yeah, for sure.
Oh man, I'm in trouble here.
There's a bunch of brand new music in here too. That's the thing.
Right.
Usually you got a game like this, and it's it's not the first time someone's done a music trivia game. Certainly with this implementation, maybe, but we've had them before. But they're very narrow focused usually.
Yes.
It's like, you can tell this game came out in this year because they're using music from that decade, kind of. It's like that decade of music.
It's much narrower,
It's a lot narrower. This is really impressive with the spectrum they're able to pull from. And I thought the implementation with, Pandora? Spotify. I thought the implementation with Spotify worked pretty well.
Now, does this only work with Spotify?
Yes, and that's one of the things I wanted to mention is that there are already people that you even whisper the word app around them if they're at the gaming table. They run screaming, hissing at you as if you're a vampire. Or maybe that just happened to me. This one you need to have two apps. You need to download the Hitster app, which is free, of course. That is where you'll get the rules and you'll get it'll kind of connect with a Spotify. And so that means you also have to have a Spotify account. Now, that can also be free. I don't have a premium Spotify account. I had no problems getting it to, just go right in. And as a matter of fact, I didn't have to log into Spotify or anything. It must have already maybe have access to your app on your phone.
Yeah, I don't know how that works.
Yeah.
I did not use my own Spotify with this, which I also don't have a premium one.
Right.
But it's seeing you do it, Tom do it, it seemed pretty seamless.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
It'll play about a 20-second or so clip from the song. And so that is one thing. When the first time that we played it, we were making it more difficult on ourselves. We would oftentimes stop it right when we got to the point where it sounded like it was going to give you too much info. In this one, what you saw in the overview was Mr. Jones from Counting Crows, and that was said multiple times in that 20-second clip.
Right.
You still have to know the artist if you're going to get that Hitster token. You have to know it's Counting Crows, Mr. Jones.
Right.
A lot of times the song title will be in the clip that's played, but you still need to know who sang it.
Well, at the end of the day, trivia games are going to have a nice dollop of luck, right? It's like, especially Trivial Pursuits type things. You know it or you don't know it.
Right.
This gives you that, but that's not the main game. The main game is this time, reference. Like, yeah, fine, Counting Crows. You know the song, Mr. Jones. When did it come out?
Right.
That's the thing, and that's a sliding scale type thing. You can kind of feel it. Like, well, around 96?
Yeah, it was kind of fun.
Yeah,
you could tell by the production a little bit. Someone was saying that in that first game we played. It's like, based on this production, I bet it's around here.
But then there's some of those little tricky ones, like something by The Weeknd has this intentionally older kind of feeling.
Or Moby or something, using old blues clips and things like that.
So it can throw you off because the game has the breadth of decades. If it didn't, you'd be like, okay, well, this is still like a new song that sounds old, right?
Yeah.
But they did their research, they did that. I love Timeline. I also really enjoyed, what was that one? The Rotten Tomatoes game, which I thought was going to be terrible because it was the same type of thing. Slide into when that movie came out. Slide into when this song came out.
Yeah.
And that's just enjoyable to say, oh my gosh, I know this one's late 90s. Is it before or after? Oh no, I have a card that says 1997.
Right.
Oof, I'm threading that needle here. And sometimes you have a gap from like 1938 to 2012.
Right.
And you're like, in there, please.
Sure. Sure. And I do like that on other players' turns, you're still engaged. Because you're trying to guess the song and the title, right? So you're definitely engaged there. And also, you can use those Hitster tokens to basically, if you think that player is wrong, you're betting against them and saying, no, I think it goes right here. And you could steal a card from them.
Right. I will say one of the few rules in this game I don't like, there's very few rules to be fair. One of the few rules I don't like is that whole speed, when somebody makes up their mind about where something goes, being like, no, it goes there.
Yeah, you're supposed to say Hitster.
Yeah, the one who first does that.
Right.
I just kind of find that annoying.
Right.
So I wish it would just go around the table or something. Or the person who's doing the worst is the one who gets to do it or whatever. That might be one rule too many, but sure.
The only thing is it stinks if you agree with the other person who challenged as to where it goes. You can have two or more people put those tokens up, but they have to be in different spots.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that is a bit of a bummer. I agree.
Yeah, that's the only thing I thought was a little like, well, I get it, party, ha ha ha. But even that feeling of somebody else's song starts and immediately you know what it is.
Yeah.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
fun. Yes,
Yeah,
it sucks. You're like, oh, I got the song from the 1930s.
Right.
And you just got like Enter Sandman from come on.
Yeah.
But that's fun. I
It
love
is
that in a
fun.
party game. That feeling of like, oh, come on, I could have had that one. I would have gotten it right away. It's lighthearted. It's jovial. This is a fun game to sit around and just play music clips. It's like, if you're someone who loves kind of going through songs while you're driving or whatever, this is going to be right up your alley.
I was surprised how well the rules work, right? Like that idea of participating on other players' turns, I thought was going to be an out-and-out annoying rule.
Right.
And then as soon as Mike slid a card in the spot, I'm like, oh, I know it's before that. Just being able to jump in on someone else's turn feels so good. especially Music Whiz Mike.
I don't love that example, Chris. There are so many others you could have chosen than me being incorrect. Now, to be honest, to be fair, was the only time I was incorrect in that entire game.
Yes.
Otherwise, I was simply flawless. I was simply the best. Tina Turner, 19, I don't know.
Really quick, the difficulty rules.
Yeah, oh, okay, so the difficulty, there's like a pro and an expert. In the pro, to get the card at all, you have to say the artist and the title. It's not just a Hitster token.
Oof.
You have to get it right to get the card, and in the right spot.
Right.
And then in the expert, artist, title, year.
You have to state the exact
You
year.
have to state the exact thing on the card,
I'm
basically.
going to play regular mode.
Yeah,
Right,
regular
yeah.
mode is good for me.
Right, and that actually brings up one little thing that I think people should be aware of if they're looking at this game, is that, there are some party games where it'll have a particular theme, but you don't really need to know about the theme that much to have a good time,
sure.
right? And you can just kind of, riff off of things. Like, there are some of those code names ones that are a little bit more like that than others. Like, okay, well, these are still words, so I can,
Sure.
the pictures one's not so much maybe. But this is one where I think if you do not at least enjoy music, you probably need not apply. Because I can't imagine you having fun consistently not knowing
I agree.
what's being played.
Or even just a nebulous idea of kind of when music came out.
Right.
It's like, oh, this is like an 80s song, even just a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I agree with you. If you're just not someone who's really into music very much, that's an obvious statement, but it
Sure.
just isn't for you.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Well, do we want to give final thoughts?
Let's do it.
Yeah, I'll start. I really enjoyed it. This was a surprise hit. I think it looks very unassuming. It looks like it's going to be another one of those dumb kick a can and 3 pop out trivia games. But what it implements, what it does, the way it does it, I am happy to bring this out and throw it on the table. It's going to get an 8 out of 10 from me. I really like it. It's not revolutionary. It's not trying to be. Implementation works well. This is fun. I want to sit around and play right now. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yep.
It's a good one. 8 out of 10. Love it.
I'm also coming at an 8, and that's because of a few reasons. The first of which being, I like the little reward, the extra reward you get from guessing the artist and the name of the song.
Yep.
Get an extra token. Nice. Now, what do I do with that token? That's like a small level of extra choice above just name the things.
And there are
or put
multiple
them
things
with.
you can do with those
Yeah,
tokens, too.
collect 3 to just earn a free card.
Right.
That could be the difference between winning or not. But also using them to snipe a card from another player just feels so exciting.
Yeah.
That I had 3 and I blew all 3 of them trying to guess on other
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Winning be darned, I wanted to do that fun thing.
I don't think any of us did the play another song thing. We all just stuck with the one we had, because you can spend one token
Yeah.
to do that, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. I would rather just kind of do that fun stuff. And the game lets you do that. I'm not worried about the longevity of the app necessarily, because this type of game is not one that's going to stick around for decades.
Right.
Yeah.
How often do you pull out your copy of Outburst from 1989 and be like, all right, kids, let's make some jokes about the Reagan administration.
Right.
Right.
These games do just fade off. But I think that this one's done enough work to, I think, stay relevant for longer because of the breadth of music that they picked for it.
Yeah. I think that's a good point, that this is a game that definitely is going to have a shelf life, although it's probably not going to be through running out of the cards. There's a lot of cards in this game, unless you're just playing this like after dinner every night. You eventually you'll get through the cards, but there's a lot of cards in there. But just because it's based on time, you know what I mean? It's going to start to eventually kind of age out. But it's a small party game, right? It's not something that's going to be an evergreen, but it is a lot of fun. I hate, tripling the 8s, but that's what we're going to do. 888. It's really good. And I'm sorry, I'll speak for myself. I see something like this, and unfortunately, my first instinct is this is a throwaway game. Sure. It's a throwaway game. And it's not, especially if you like music. If you like music, I would say this is a no-brainer. Yeah. Even if you're not worried about points. This is one of those games where it will be just fun to be like, who did this and and where and
It feels celebratory.
yeah, and you can have other
It feels
people
like a fun celebration of music. You can just honestly sit around,
Right.
scan the cards, and who wants to guess what it is?
Yep.
Just who cares? Like, forget timeline.
Right.
Scan the card for a random song and be like, ooh, and you'll have people immediately engaged, having a good time.
There's so many tip of the tongue moments.
There
in this
are.
game.
my
yeah,
goodness.
yeah. You might even have a situation where you're playing a song and somebody from outside of the room, Camilla, just shouts out song titles, right? That could happen.
That's from Saya. Like I never heard of her.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, you could have people ruin your experience too. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. All right, well, that's going to do it. That's Hitster. Looks like 3/8 from us. Definitely a strong recommendation, especially if you like music. That's going to do it. My name is Mike DeLisio.
I'm Z Garcia.
And I'm Chris Yee.
And don't get caught between the moon and New York City.
Saya.
All right. All right. La 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 la.
Is it you then me?
Yeah, that's the way I do it. I
right,
like
let's do
going.
it
I like
that,
going
yeah.
the counterclockwise. That's what I'm used to.
It's old school.
Right.
It's before the clock was invented. They
Correct.
just called it normal back
They
then.
did.